ready to get going? Good morning. My name is Chappell. I'll be leading the discussion on trust and transparency in the affiliate industry this morning. Thanks for joining us. We've got an intimate crowd today, so feel free to pipe in if you've got questions or comments or have anything you want the panel to address. Joining me, I have Carrie, Rocha, Chad Waite, and Andrew Wolbert, representing the triad of affiliate, network, and merchant. So we will get to hear about the topic from every possible angle. We'd really like this session to be a conversation, so we're going to provide an opportunity pretty early on to hear from you in the audience to tell us what questions you have and help us set the direction of where the conversation goes today. Before we launch into the discussion, I'd like to give Carrie, Chad, and Andrew a chance to give us a quick intro, who they are, their experience in affiliate networking, a little bit about their background so you know who's talking to you today. So without further ado, we'll start and hand it over to, we'll do ladies first, so we'll start with Carrie.
Well, thank you. I'm Carrie Rocha. I am founder of PocketYourDollars.com. It's a blog. I've made a full-time living and supported my family of four via my blog for just over 5 years. I started my blog not quite 6 years ago, I've been, affiliate marketing is kind of our primary way that we make a living, and I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Carrie. Chad?
Yeah, I'm Chad Waite. I'm the marketing manager for AvantLink. That's an affiliate marketing network. We operate in the United States, Canada, and Australia as well, and I've been at that since about 2010, so I've got a couple years under my belt, but always going to these shows, it makes me feel like the newcomer still. There's always a lot to learn.
So Chad, have you been able to get to Australia to work with the Australia team or not?
No, that is definitely in the cards, though. The Great Barrier Reef is on the bucket list, so if there's a business opportunity to go down there, I'll take it.
Awesome. Andrew?
My name is Andrew Wolbert. I've been an affiliate manager for a little over 5 years at 3 different companies. One was a Usenet VPN, so the model was similar to web hosting with high commissions. And another one was 360 training, so it was online learning courses and super high margin, so it again fit really well with the affiliate model. And then the last company that I worked for was an online appliance store, so it was super low margins and very competitive in the affiliate space, trying to actually make the numbers work out and make the bottom line work.
Super, thank you. So it sounds like you've seen all ends of the spectrum from low margin to high margin to...
Yeah.
I'll introduce myself as well. My name is Chappell. I got started in the affiliate industry in 2009 with Brand Verity. So I've spent my entire career in the affiliate industry on the tools and solution provider side of things. I think a lot of tool and solution providers are really trying to uncover data that provides transparency for those of you out in the audience. So I'm especially excited to lead this panel today. So if we think about transparency and trust, each of us in the room will have a different definition of what that means to you. And so I thought for us to start the discussion today, we'd start by just let's understand what transparency means to each of our panel members, because I think we'll find that it might not be the same for everyone. Carrie, do you want us to start us off?
Sure. So as an affiliate, I actually think of transparency in 2 directions. I think about transparency from me to my readership, and what that means in terms of, transparent means seeing through, right? Something that's see-through is transparent. So my readers being able to see through and understand how I'm making money, understand my motives, and have transparency in that direction. But I also think of transparency in what I would call the other direction, back toward the merchant. And for me, especially as a smaller affiliate, right? I'm not necessarily, I make a living doing this, but I'm not necessarily a top affiliate in many programs. For me to gain access to the understanding, what are people doing after they click on my link, and exactly what are they buying and how, and the intelligence that would help me to do my job better, that level, that kind of transparency there as well. So I think of it those 2 ways.
Super. Chad?
Yeah. So from the network perspective, it's a little interesting because we have to deal with transparency that we maybe not require, but we expect to see between merchants and affiliates. And then more importantly, what we can do as a network to provide that transparency to all parties that we work with. And actually jotted it down on my phone because I know I could do it much more eloquently if I was actually trying to read it. But from the network's perspective, I know that the overall goal for us is to provide technology that makes both parties, merchants and affiliates, more informed on the decisions that they make, based around who they're working with. And decisions based on real information from that technology instead of industry assumptions. From a network perspective, transparency immediately starts with the access to data. Data will yield all transparency in our minds. You can see what's going on so you can make educated, informed decisions. And between then, merchants and affiliates, the easiest way to establish trust and transparency is setting expectations from the get-go. I mean, I'm a little fearful that I'm not going to provide any groundbreaking, new information today that nobody's seen before, because it really starts with simple steps, and that begins with setting realistic expectations where if an affiliate's working with a merchant, they know what to expect, and if a merchant's working with an affiliate, they know what to expect. If there's no surprises and they know what they can, anticipate coming down the line, then that establishes a really good base of trust right from the get-go.
And can I jump on one
Sure.
thing that Chad said? He was talking about data, from a network perspective, data is the kind of a foundation for transparency. And I would say, I would think of two things, data and disclosure. So I need data, but there's a communication component to transparency in terms of telling people what you're doing that can't necessarily come through in data.
I think of transparency more in terms of aligning everyone's mutual goals between the merchant, the affiliate, and the network. So I personally get terrified when I see a New York Times article about the dark side of affiliate marketing, or and this isn't a knock on Carrie's wonderful blog, but I get terrified when I come to an event like this and see that 95% of the affiliate participants are coupon and deal sites. So I would certainly completely agree with Chad that the industry needs to move in a direction where data and attribution is the focus, and sharing that knowledge to everyone so that we can align our mutual goals and work towards a better industry.
So it's interesting. We've heard there's some similarity between your definitions of transparency, but there are also some unique differences depending on where you're coming at. But before we go on in discussion, I'd love to get some of you in the audience, if you have any thoughts on what you've heard about our initial definition of transparency. Are there any things that you want to add in or questions that you want to make sure we address as we go through this conversation?
I just had one. Time might be appropriate. My business.
Could you hop up to the mic? They just want to make sure that we record it for the people that watch it later.
The reason I'm here, our business is a pay-per-call business, so we're routing calls for merchants and such. So I'm very interested to see what else we can do for the industry to help with this transparency and to get everyone feeling comfortable with, hey, this call was delivered. Was it a good quality? Does it work? What are the types of things that maybe are not existing today that would be of value?
Super. Thank you. We'll make sure we hit that. Any other in the audience before we continue on? All right. Thank you. So, Carrie and Chad and Andrew, you each heard each other's kind of definition of transparency. I'd love to get your reaction to each other, whether it's around Carrie's comments around disclosure or Chad, your discussion about setting expectations. I'm wondering if there's a reaction.
Yeah, I can actually jump in on this. I think that one point that you both made that kind of results to the data comment that I made earlier was access to it through both parties. The buzzword in the industry right now is attribution, right? It's been for the last couple years, and I think that there's two problems with attribution. I think that most people don't understand what attribution means because there's so many different definitions of it out there. Right? To some companies, attribution is insight to a click stream, right? So how did your customer, how were they interacting with the affiliate channel, and what other marketing channels did they hit to actually become a conversion? But more importantly, some companies out there think of attribution as what do you do with that data then? How do you actually take action on things like splitting commission for all parties involved, and where does that information actually lead you in terms of an actionable sense? With that, the second problem is, interestingly enough, attribution data right now, which is really powerful to all parties, is kind of currently only available to merchants, right? Most affiliates, I think it would be safe to argue that you don't really see who else is involved in the clickstream. And I'm not advocating that all information should be made for affiliates, right? I mean, other marketing channels are probably proprietary information for for merchants. They'd like to probably keep their efforts on outside channels to themselves. But I do think that there is a point to be made that some affiliates would like to see, okay, how many times am I being involved with other affiliate referrals too? And how can I do things to optimize on my end to maybe not prevent that, but to make sure that my referrals are the most valuable? And how can I optimize my affiliate marketing efforts to make sure that I'm providing the maximum amount of value? And I think if you can provide that data, it benefits everyone. The merchants will know that the affiliates will try to work harder in making their referrals the most valid and the most hands-on as possible, and the affiliates will know exactly where they're coming in. And I personally, my my belief is in the next 2 to 3 years, we'll start to see attribution that not only benefits the merchants, but you'll start to see it migrate over to being more transparent on the affiliate end as well. To what degree and what exactly that means in terms of dirty details, I couldn't tell you right now. But my magic 8 ball says that that's the shift that will probably happen in the next little while here.
So, I mean, 2 of my favorite attribution tools are Convertro and Adometry. And essentially the way that Adometry works is it compares thousands of similar click streams, and let's say the first 4 touches are all the same, and then the last touch is retell me not. And it can equate a value based upon those comparisons. But in terms of sharing that information with the affiliates, I mean, I do believe that Adometry and Convertro certainly offer a lot of white papers if you're willing to accept a bunch of spam. Where, I mean, Convertro specifically has a wine enthusiast white paper where their mathematical modeling, and you can make the modeling come to any result that you want. But it said that coupon sites added very little value to merchants, to the point that merchant, wine enthusiast, actually cut off all their coupon sites.
And I think, kind of dovetailing, particularly on what Chad was saying, the idea in my mind from an affiliate perspective, I'll just say, I think I have patience to wait a little bit, recognizing that, although affiliates are important, affiliates in one sense don't pay the bills. So the merchant is going to need the data that they need to make their business decisions, particularly when we're talking about the clickstream and attribution and that sort of thing. But I am hopeful that as merchants are becoming more comfortable on networks, building tools and building reporting that provides merchants their specific information, but as well some aggregated network-wide kinds of things, that then there's exploration on the affiliate side, saying what kind of aggregate information, or what kind of, obviously I'm not expecting somebody to tell me who exactly by name else is involved in a clickstream, but for me to understand, there aren't a lot of networks where I can even know that, like if I was the second to the last click, where I could even know that. And so, I mean, I have very limited access. I know AvantLink provides some of that, but ShareSale does as well. But if I were doing a transaction in CJ, I mean, it's either on or off for me. And so I don't have any insight into what's happening. And particularly with an emphasis on content marketing in this space, as a content marketer, I have a lot of ability to influence what I'm doing, because I'm not getting traffic from Google. I have readers who come. I have a following that's checking my blog and getting my daily emails and following me on Facebook. And if I realize, this, they're leaping over me for this reason, or somebody is doing this kind of behavior, I can modify the kind of content I'm providing, or I can try to overcome that objection within my blog posts that I'm writing, and it can benefit me. But without information, I don't have anything actionable to do.
Carrie, can you talk a little bit more about that? And I'm interested in a
Yeah.
particular question. Have you ever made a decision to either work with or not work with a particular program because you either had or didn't have data? Like, have
Yeah.
you decided, oh, I'll work with them because they're on AvantLink or ShareCell because there is a little more information versus
Yeah.
CJ where they don't?
You know, I have in some situations, and I think I will increasingly, as you know, as kind of time goes on, and I've sort of become aware of some of the ways that I can use this, in particular in ShareSale where I work a fair bit. That if I had two merchants who were equal, you know, providing sort of similar products, and I wanted to write about them, and one I knew had what ShareSale would call like a leapfrog, where I would still earn commission even if somebody clicked through, say, to a coupon site at the last second, I would still earn the commission. I'm certainly going to prefer that, and I would opt for that merchant over a merchant where it's just solely a last click. And certainly it's a money factor, but I'm on this panel because I have a real belief in transparency and a real commitment to the communication I was talking about. And so feeling like I'm working with partners who share some sort of value with that also means something to me. I have to say my background was in the nonprofit sector before I became affiliate marketing, so obviously I have that sort of soft side to me too.
Van, if I can go back to something Andrew mentioned just a minute
Yeah.
ago. So AvantLink has a full-scale attribution system which does look at a lot of the interactions that affiliates have with other affiliates and other marketing channels. And one thing that I think is interesting, I mean, you brought up the idea that coupon sites provide little value, and I'm not advocating for or against coupon or deal sites, price comparison sites. I think that this though underlines basically the entire point of this this session right here, industry trust, and that's that you've done a very good job of you said that you vetted these guys, right? You looked at the numbers, you actually took some time to go in and research this and say, okay, maybe for our strategy that we have and with the margins that we have, this doesn't necessarily work for us. But that's unfortunately, I don't think that's the case with many merchants out there, and I think that part of establishing trust in the industry is knowing that who you're going to work with, whether it's the affiliates with the networks or the merchants with the affiliates, any combination of these clients here, that you can trust that they're actually going to be basing their decisions off of real tangible data, right? Stuff that they actually see, and not so much just, oh hey, we're affiliate summit and we heard a couple people say that they don't like coupon sites, so now we're going to give them the axe. And frankly speaking, we see a lot of programs where if they position their strategy right and they have the right type of product that's conducive to it, certain categories of affiliates that may go against the grain actually end up being maybe not necessarily, fitting in with the typical mold that they're given. So, and that's not at all to discredit the action that you took, but it's that we really hope that I think that the basis for establishing trust is knowing that if you're an affiliate that does, this type of promotion, you're not just going to get the axe or some big commission reduction one day just based on an assumption. We hope that data powers that decision to actually, move in that direction.
Well, and I would certainly contend that my decisions were data-driven. I look at the GA and the Omniture stats and see that a Retail Me Not, is 17% first-touch traffic. A good search is 7%. I mean, those are some pretty pitiful numbers. The odd part is, I would actually contend the loyalty sites are much more attributive than I ever would have thought. I mean, in Ebates is like 65% first touch. But one of the questions that I have regarding Avant metrics is one of the reasons that I like Adometry, and it's scary in the sense that it's a Google-owned tool. Google bought it. They'll probably close it down in a couple of years once they get all the data they want. But when you talk to those guys, they essentially say, Facebook and us, we are the only two people that could actually do the clickstream cross-platform. So, and as more and more of the traffic is mobile to desktop, how are the networks actually going to be able to follow those click streams and piece together that data properly?
Well, it's really easy to get incoming data, right? You look at user agents, you look at the platform that it's on off of the referrals. That's not hard at all. When we set up Avant Metrics, we also, for other marketing channels, for example, we talk to our merchants and say, hey, what do you do to promote your brand, right? Outside of the affiliate channel, obviously. Do you do PPC? Do you do, are you very heavily reliant on organic search results? Do you do Facebook advertising? And it's easy to track that stuff when they have specific metrics that we can actually look at being, referred to them. And with that, it creates this click stream where you not only see where the affiliates are coming into play, but also where the other marketing channels are. And going back to talking about cutting, commission rates for a certain, genre of affiliates that may or may not work with, with your strategy, I would actually contend that the better way to do that is to not cut them, because you said, okay, Retail Me Not had a 17% first touch rate, right? And
Yeah.
so that's, 17% of the time, that's pretty good, right? That's introducing, if that's the first time somebody's coming over to your brand, right, being referred over to your site, 17%, they discovered your brand through, whatever channel it was, 17% of the time, unless I'm misunderstanding first touch. We call those introducers, right? So the first time that we actually see an affiliate or somebody reach a merchant site through an affiliate referral, that comes through, X amount of, percentage of the time, we call those introducers. And there's two other things. There's influencers, which are midstream. They kind of help influence a sale to reach the checkout process. And then those affiliates that come in during the checkout process, we call those checkout influencers. And our position isn't to generally across the board lower, a percentage of commission for these people, but dynamically reward them based on where they came in. So were they the only referral? Where did they actually come into the click stream? So, if this person, helped influence an actual sale to happen, and there was nobody else in the click stream, what does that percentage look like? What is that, in terms of value to you as a merchant? You don't just want to give them the axe across the board. Use the data to be a little bit more dynamic in terms of commission payouts, because that way it's not ubiquitously lowering or raising a commission rate, because there are some times where those referrals are always different, and they will always be different. And just as kind of a side note, I would also say that it's very hard to gauge intent, right? We talk about coupon sites and stuff, but I would say that any merchant that has a coupon code on their site is now asking for it. By raise of hands, who's done that, right? Who's checked out online, they see a coupon code box? Who's Googled the coupon code? All hands should be up, right? So if we're being honest with ourselves, it sets that expectation. So, again, I'm not advocating for or against, any sort of, genre of affiliate, but there are other factors that set the expectation on what a customer should be looking for. And I think that if that's the expectation that's in place, using data, there's a really good way to handle that besides just kind of, cuts across the board, which is not a bad way, I think. And if you're using data to drive that, that's far better than just hearing somebody say, oh, well, let's just do it because I heard my friend did it. That's a terrible, terrible excuse for doing
I feel like a
Well-
number of the things that we've talked about have kind of tied into this idea of setting expectations, whether between the merchant and their affiliate or between, the network and the different players. I wonder if you guys could talk a little bit about setting expectations and the importance of that in that relationship.
Well, and you know what, I'm going to actually I'm going to answer that, but take it a little bit of a different way, because I had said, I think that there's two directions, right? Transparency for me, I am what Chad would say in that influencer space, right? I am sometimes an introducer because I'm introducing new brands, but I'm also an influencer in the middle. And so when I think about setting expectations, I'm setting expectations between me and my readership. First and foremost, because if I lose them, I lose everything, right? And so they're my first priority to take care of. So I'm making sure, and I'm saying this, assuming I'm talking to a room full of merchants and encouraging those who are managing affiliate programs to recognize that if you want content marketers and you're going after that the content marketers are going to be, they're not as committed to you as they are to their readers. They don't care about you as much, even though you pay them, because really the readers pay them, because if the readers don't buy, then it doesn't matter what your commission rate is. So I set expectations with my readers about what I will promote, what I won't promote. And in terms of the FTC disclosure, I certainly say that I have a material relationship with these brands, but it's not just that. I actually tell them, even though I make money from this, if you have a problem with it, I will help you navigate the customer service If that doesn't work, I will personally reimburse you, and I have, over the years, written personal checks to people who have been screwed by merchants that I referred because they're my customers. If without them, I lose my livelihood. So I set that expectation. I'm just leaving, it's not that I don't set expectations with merchants, but I'm leaving that knowing these guys will touch on that, and wanting affiliate managers to really recognize that that is a mindset of any quality content marketer is going to first and foremost be about that expectation before they're around, and before they're thinking about you. And if you don't align with that and your expectation is shady or gray or anything else, you're done. They don't want to work with that because they're very committed to their readership. Gentlemen. Silence.
Well, as an affiliate manager, setting expectations always begins with the terms of service. So, I mean, my advice from that perspective is, even if your company lawyer wants to write 30 or 50 pages, maybe you should abbreviate it and write in normal people terms the terms of service at the top of that an affiliate might actually read in 2 or 3 paragraphs.
The cliff notes, right?
Yeah, the cliff notes of what the lawyer wanted. But then the other part that I always try to do with all the programs that I manage is either on the company website or as a standalone sort of WordPress blog, I always set up an FAQ, and as part of that, I always try to show people how to be the types of affiliates that I want to encourage in that program. And so, I mean, currently my favorite affiliate site by far is the Wirecutter, the sweet home sort of guy who worked at Gawker. I mean, I don't have the patience to write 7,000 words, and I wish I had the money to pay the writers to do that. But it's an awesome model if you can do it. So, I mean, those are my main ways of setting expectations, along with communication. I mean, one of the things that I always want to do with a deal site, once I've established a relationship or rapport with them, is it's like, okay, I might give you this kegerator at no margin. We're going to just sell that like crazy, but I want you to promote 3 other deals that are really only about 5% off so that we can actually make some money from this relationship.
I think you both hit on some really good points. I actually really like what you said about the terms and service or terms and conditions with working with a merchant. Again, from a network perspective, I hate to start everything off, but with that little preface. But from a network perspective, we really like to see merchants do just that, where not only are the affiliates agreeing to our terms and conditions as a network, and those are very strictly regulated, so we try to set the expectation that if there are any additional T&Cs from individual merchants, that A, the affiliates will abide by them and understand them, and B, that the merchants are going to present them in a consumable fashion, right? How many times have we seen lawyers go and try to rewrite like War and Peace in terms and condition form, right? It's this huge, thick, red-lined, massive thing, and I actually really like the idea of making the key points of operating within a program that may go above and beyond a network's typical terms and conditions, consumable and understandable for the affiliate's end. I really like that, and I think that kind of leads into the next point. Setting expectations from a merchant's end, the idea of having a your no BSO meter, right? If you find an affiliate who's violating these terms and conditions, absolutely make sure to take action on it. Live up to your terms and conditions. And again, I know this isn't anything groundbreaking, but it's something that we tend to see leniency on sometimes. They're a bigger affiliate. Yes, you don't want to damage that relationship, but make sure you're acting according to your rules, because this not only protects your reputation as a brand, but it also protects the other affiliates who can potentially see other affiliates getting away with things that they're currently abiding by those rules. I'll give you a great example. I'm sure many of you know Waite and Joe with Fanatics. I know they're nominated for a Pinnacle Award, or Joe was at least. But they do an awesome job, no matter how big or small the affiliate is, of saying, if you are in violation of our terms and conditions, we will have a hardline response. We will give you 24 hours to correct what you're doing, and we'll probably put you on a watch list, or you're out. And there have been so many times where, despite it being a pretty big affiliate, they will bring the hammer down. And for us as a network, we know that they are abiding by their terms and conditions. For the other affiliates that they work with, they know that everybody's playing by the rules, and those who step out of line are out, right? It's a really great concept, and I love it when we see terms or merchants really stick to their guns despite the size of a relationship or even a potential relationship. One last note, I feel like I'm talking a bunch, but just from the affiliates end, we like to see them give a full site description, right? So when I come to you and I'm looking at, Pocket Your Dollars, and I think, is this somebody I want to work with? Give me a really robust description of your site. Tell me how I can expect to see incoming traffic from your promotional techniques, where you're going to be promoting these. So if you're going to have, pocketyourdollars.com, that's great. But if you have a Facebook community that you're also going to be trying to aggregate links out, let me know as a merchant. I want to make sure that I'm fully expecting to see, incoming traffic from these areas and not have anything crop up as a surprise. That sets the expectations from the affiliates end, and then the merchant end. Again, I really like your point about having the consumable terms and conditions. I think that's almost vital. So,
can I add one more thing? Just knowing, and as kind of a blogger representing content marketers, knowing that there's an increasing amount in the affiliate space of like giving products for review in the affiliate channel, and that I just want to touch on that where expectations are concerned and transparency, because maybe you don't know, but you need to be very clear. If you give a product for review, you may assume that means if you contact me and say, hey, I'll give you a $50 gift card to my site, you may assume that in giving me that means I will use it, take 4 pictures of it, write about it, whatever. But you know what? If you don't tell me, I will give you this $50 gift card and I expect that you will do A, B, and C. You really can't be frustrated when that doesn't happen. I'm just saying. And there's a lot of frustration, and I've heard it, and I get a lot of questions in the hallway, but, we've tried this and it's not working. I just want to encourage you in the stuff that's almost, sort of fringe on the affiliate side that you're a little uncomfortable with, make sure those expectations are there, and bloggers are very comfortable in those conversations, or ones you're working with should be pretty comfortable in those conversations, but have those dialogues and set those expectations where that's concerned as well.
I think what I'm hearing is it's almost a set of best practices around how each part of the industry should operate. And my question to you guys is, whose responsibility is it to really push those into the industry? Does it come from? Is it the network? Is it the merchant? Where does that responsibility lie?
Can I go first, guys? Please. So, whenever I hear a question about responsibility, I think if you've ever taken a CPR class, you know that the Red Cross people say to you, in an emergency, you never say, someone call 911, right? You say, you call 911. Because if you just say someone do it, no one will do it, right? Because everyone assumes someone else is doing it. So I have a 2-part answer, which is, one, we all have to take responsibility. So you and you and you and you and you, each one of us has to say, that's a call to me to do my part in communicating, my part to influence data, my part to be as transparent as I can, and realistically within the way that the money works and the business model works in this industry, I really think this has to be a top-down approach, because how in the world can I, as a blogger, make a dent industry-wide? I can influence my sphere, but as networks are influencing the merchants who are working with those and the merchants influencing the affiliates, then you can really see an impactful lasting change. But that answer does not mean everyone else is off the hook. And I'm looking at you, Chad, since you're the network guy. I've just given it to you.
So, I just lost my train of thought for a second. I think that there's a reverse hierarchy here. I think that, we talk about organizations like the PMA, which do a good job of establishing guidelines. They're trying to shoot for standardization of best practices, standard accepted, elements of the business across the board. But the problem is, unless you're, here at Affiliate Summit, or you've been involved with the industry, you have some history, the PMA isn't going to be, if I'm a casual blogger, I just started my blog on, the best places to go see while I'm walking up and down the strip at Las Vegas, right? I'm not going to know about the PMA, right? It may be, the ideal organization for guiding this industry, but I'm not going to know about it as a casual blogger. I know that I want to try to monetize my content in a meaningful way, but I'm not going to know that there's an organization for performance marketing that establishes best practices. So I think that there is a reverse hierarchy in the sense that you've got to look at who controls a lot. And that starts with the networks. Yeah. I think the networks, there's a lot of merchants that work under a network. There are only a handful of networks. So the networks can go through and say, look, we see these as being the best practices. We see these as being the ways that we feel that your affiliate should operate, and here are some great resources, whether it's the PMA or your own white papers or best practice recommendations that you may have. Then I believe it's the merchant's responsibilities to forward that stuff on to the affiliates. There are a ton of affiliates out there, and many that are, of course, way more versed on this stuff than others. And I think it's a little bit hard to see that sometimes when you're at a conference like Affiliate Summit, because everybody here is clearly invested in this industry, right? It is, your primary source of income. It's, you manage these merchant programs. You've been doing it for 6 years. You get a little bit jaded here thinking everybody kind of understands this, but from a network perspective, 99% of people coming on board don't understand that there is an organization like the PMA out there, or there are best practices. And, while we do our best to try to educate them, it is something where I think everybody needs to be involved.
I've seen all parties be guilty. I think that the CJ system in particular is stupid. I at some point I actually had a guy on the phone and I asked him, why as a merchant does it take 7 days to get a response to my ticket? And the guy was like, oh, because we order your tickets in the same pile with the publisher tickets. And it's like, really? The company I worked for paid you $90,000 last year. So that's silly from a communication sort of perspective. But then I see some of these bigger programs like Home Depot where I don't even see a way to contact them. Like, they don't even list their email addresses. Yeah. And it's just like, well, that doesn't seem very conducive to a healthy and transparent sort of program. But then, my biggest complaint as an affiliate manager is just all the hundreds of people that take large checks and never respond to my emails.
Yeah. That's actually a good point, though. You touch on something that is, we talk about baby steps, right? Little steps that go a long way. Contact information. Right, on both ends. Like, don't just put in an email. Like, the best affiliate program managers I know have so many ways of getting in touch with them. It's borderline ridiculous. There's email and phone number, but then there's Skype, and there's also their Google Plus, so they can do Hangouts, and they're, oh, hey, here's my join.me screen share account, so if you ever need a tutorial. The best program managers have just almost an unhealthy amount of ways to contact them. And then same thing with the affiliates, right? I actually think one big thing is and I don't necessarily think that this applies to somebody like you, Carrie, but more kind of enterprise level affiliates, like, oh my gosh, keep your contact information up to date. Don't put your main contact information as the black hole, inbox where all newsletters get sent to and it hasn't been checked in 7 years, right? Like if you're going to be working with the network and you're going to be taking these big checks, like, make sure that there's at least a way, if there's an emergency or something that needs to be worked out, make sure we know how to contact you. And this is, not only from a merchant perspective, but from a network's perspective too. I can't tell you how many times there's been an affiliate who's just let their, contact information get out of date, and it's immensely frustrating. It's a great way to establish trust, communication.
So we can add communication as a best practice that we need to.
Yeah, right. List out the ways to get a hold of someone.
So let's shift gears a little bit and talk about resources. Obviously, when it comes to transparency, there are tools and resources out there that I'm sure each of you have used in order to be more effective. And we pulled together a few of these before the show to make sure we had them, although I think we've lost the...
Well, while you're looking at that, I'm going to go back to this other thing because I can't get this point out of my head. As I'm thinking, okay, well, what's a kind of a business case here for transparency, right? I'm just a rule follower by my nature. I think I have a kid born that way. Some people are born that way, right? And some aren't. But apart from that, just doing the right thing because it's the right thing, why does it even make sense, or what value does it add? And I just want to say, and I keep bringing up content marketers because it's a buzz. It's what I'm hearing all over. But, a result of transparency can be collaboration. If I don't know what you're doing and you don't know what I'm doing, then there's no common ground for us to explore a creative way to work together that benefits our mutual interest. And certainly, I don't want to partner with you if I'm not convinced and don't have the trust that we share any sort of mutual interest. So I think that, from a merchant perspective, running your affiliate program such that you have a culture of transparency, it positions you kind of from that long tail perspective to work in creative and unique ways and with affiliates, and to get those kinds of relationships that potentially your competition isn't getting or can't get just by the nature of their more secretive culture. It makes people a little nervous to want to enter into something different or unique with them. So I just want to make sure I brought that point up.
So we got the slides up. So who wants to lead us off talking about tools they use to have used for increased transparency?
I can jump in on this. I mentioned this several times, but AvantMetrics is, again, AvantLink's full-scale attribution platform. And our goal with that was, once again, not to only provide the insight into things like clickstream and other marketing channels that are referring a customer back to the merchant's site, but what to actually do with that data. And can you use that data to make a more dynamic program that enables something that's conducive to an individual sale, looking at an individual sale and adjusting your payout rules and your compensation methods on that individual sale, and what forces were involved in making a conversion there, rather than just kind of making a site-wide thing and trying to be responsive in that way. Just not to go into sell, but AvantMetrics has been around since about 2011, and I think ever since the industry has really started to place a high value on things like additional insight and transparency and attribution in general, really over the last couple years, we've definitely started to see the demand for this grow pretty heavily, and that's great. That's awesome for us to see, because that means that merchants are recognizing the value of this. Affiliates would much rather have be a part of something than get 100% of nothing, having their cookies overridden or, getting their category of affiliate axed completely. Everybody who's involved with this has been almost, very happy with the idea of attribution and the idea of more data-driven compensation for the impact that they've had on a conversion. So that's AvantMetrics for me.
Chad or Andrew?
I would certainly praise Impact Radius as the other big network that is making a concerted effort to try to have multi-channel attribution. I haven't actually seen how well it works. I know that Advanced Auto Parts is big on there, and I see them on Slick Deals with 70% off coupons all the time. So I'm somewhat skeptical in my own mind about how well that tool works at this moment. Like you said, baby steps. The other tools that I love to promote transparency, as an affiliate manager, I believe, I've got to make it clear, but I also have to check up on you. Yeah. So I need to use either Brandberry or the Search Monitor to make sure that you're not doing that branded PPC bidding. And it's always amazing to me, offers.com, and these really big companies just always creep, and they always seem to start on AOL, and it's like, and then it's like, oh man, that was broad match, I'm sorry. But if you're not watching them with a tool like that, it eventually migrates over to Google, and it drives up your ad spend for the PPC team, and they yell at you. And
that's bad.
Yeah, that's horrible. And then the other thing that I always love to do with my affiliates is I like to try to reverse engineer how they're getting their traffic. So I love looking at their backlinks, and my favorite tool from that perspective is Majestic SEO, because it'll let me hone in. And one of the pages that I specifically looked at was, I'll mention Good Search again, and their compact appliance coupon page, it brings up a little pie chart with 90% anchor text that says compact appliance coupons. It's like this old school black hat sort of from this massive affiliate. And it's like, well, you've beaten Retail Me Not for now, but let's see how long that stays. But I mean, one of the other points that I would make in terms of slashing the coupon sites, I would say that that's an area where often these coupon sites are kind of a victim of the tools that they use. Because part of the way that merchants can get away with that is because you know that the back end is being disseminated by For Me to Coupon or Pop Shops or Golden Can. And if it's not Retail Me Not in that top spot, it's going to be Good Search or it's going to be coupons.com. And it's like, well.
Yeah, and I was able to catch Gino's presentation yesterday, and the tools he talked about 55 tools or something like that.
Yeah.
And it wasn't specific to transparency, but that's also a great resource of a place to look for, just ideas of things that you could use for various purposes. So I'll just throw that out there as well.
I'll second Brand Verity too. They have been excellent in helping our compliance department maintain our rigorous, terms and conditions that we try to enforce on on our affiliates. We hold them to a high standard, and Brand Verity has been very good at helping with that.
So something that I want to ask you as a network is, my favorite transparent sort of application process is at ShareASell, where they have the little box where the affiliate says, this is why I'm applying to your program. To the best of my knowledge, AvantLink doesn't have that. I mean, you vet initially, you have to put, I don't know, like an HTML thing to verify your site. But why, I mean, is that something that you guys would consider?
Well, it's something we consider. We like to think that our vetting process from the get-go is much heavier than any other network. When a new affiliate applies, we first start by verifying site ownership, for one. We deny about 75% of applicants because I can't tell you how many people are just trying to sneak in and say they own Google. It happens all the time, right? They're like, oh yeah, I own Google. You should work with me as an affiliate. So okay, if you own Google, here's a little bit of JavaScript. Yeah, here's a little bit of JavaScript to put on a site-wide element of your site. Prove to us you own this and have admin access. That's step one. The second step is we actually have a human verification process. So every single applicant that makes it past that, we actually go to our compliance department and have a human set of eyes that looks at it and says, okay, is there a good reason to have this on our network? Are they in line with the merchants and the products that our merchants represent? And furthermore, do we feel like there's an established history of them and they're not just a blogger who had a rash of articles in 2011 for 2 weeks, or are they a fly-by-night coupon site that was built on WordPress 2 nights ago and has just aggregated everything out from whatever feed they can find? And I think that heavy vetting process, and we really do that for every single one. It is an incredibly laborious process. It takes a long time to do it, but we feel that when the affiliates do turn around and start to apply to programs at that point, that a lot of the reason for why are they applying to you is already there, right? Because we know that at some point these people have some interest in the products and content that aligns with the products that these merchants sell. So, and we also provide the email address of the affiliates straight up. So you can reach out to them, and we don't hide that or anything. We provide complete transparency in terms of how to actually get in touch with every single one of our clients from the get-go. So,
how about resources for understanding it? Carrie, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, and the resources that I contributed are on the disclosure front. If you're not familiar as a merchant with what is required of your affiliates are legally required to disclose that they have a material relationship with a brand. And so affiliate marketing is that. And the FTC has cracked down and given fines, and they don't give the fines to the publisher, they give the fines to the brand. So it really behooves a merchant to understand that. And the Performance Marketing Association has put out a couple of white papers that kind of synthesize that and kind of, deconstruct that and help you understand what that should look like. And I will say that goes for blog posts, that goes for videos. It also goes, someone like me, I do a lot on radio and TV in my local market, but I can't use a vanity code that tracks back to me because I can't disclose it on air. And both the television network and the show and the brand could get in trouble, and it's just not worth that risk, because who are they going to be mad at, right? Me. And I don't want that, but I'm just saying you need to have some awareness of that. And the Performance Marketing Association is a great resource. On their website, if you went to the PMA.org, they have a whole section of like resources and white papers on a variety of topics. And the guy who founded Brand Verity is the head of the Compliance Council. And so they've done work there as well. So I think it's a great place to just go to get more information and just get smarter on some of this stuff we're talking about.
Super. Well, why don't we've got a few minutes left, and I think first, a gentleman had a question early on, and I think we dealt with how, we talked a little bit about how we could encourage more transparency. Did we answer your question? I want to just come back to you and make sure there wasn't anything that we missed.
Just ask, is there any other more in-depth as it relates to paper call? Anything else about that process that would be better?
And the question was about pay-per-call, whether there's anything more in depth around transparency around pay-per-call. I don't. Does anyone on the panel have any?
It's interesting you asked that. AvantLink is the one network that strictly does cost per sale. We don't dive into any pay-per-call or CPC or any sort of lead gen. So unfortunately, I don't know if I can provide much additional insight into that. It is a good industry, or a big industry that's growing though. And I mean, I would say that if you can't get an answer here, there are a lot of exhibitors in the expo hall who can probably point you to better resources. If there isn't any additional comments on that. So and I'd be happy to talk to you after and maybe give you a name of a couple of those people.
How about the rest of the audience? Are there any other questions out there that you'd like to hear? And if you wouldn't mind coming to the mic, that would make it great for the people that watch later.
Hi, thank you. I manage an in-house affiliate program. We've been around for about 5 years, and we actually, in the past 6 months, took this large, unruly, not so well managed program and sort of restructured it into a much smaller, more exclusive and focused program. We know about the restructuring and we're launching it to our affiliates, but how would you suggest, we discussed a lot of transparency and communication. How would you recommend making sure that they feel this switch of, I guess, mentality to Gen 2 type of program where we do have their updated contact information. We sent out gifts and we got some back in the mail. I thought they wanted them. Things like that. So like we know what we're doing and we know that we changed a lot. How would you recommend best portraying that to our affiliates, that we do want to speak to them and we have money to give them and opportunities for them. We just want the open channels.
I was like, we have money to give to you. That's no,
a good
It's
seriously.
your email title.
We budgeted. Your money is waiting.
Yeah. I have something to say, but I don't know if somebody else wants to go
Oh,
first.
no, go ahead first. I've got something after.
Well, and I was going to say, I'm just thinking about what Andrew said before about making sure you have the frequently asked questions and that you've really built out kind of a help center for folks. And I'm a very high-touch person. I mean, I answer I get a lot of email from the people who read my blog, and I answer every one, right? I take care of the people that take care of me. And so if that's the culture you want in your affiliate program, then I would say do that. I mean, you can email folks, but if you've got top affiliates that have performed well or that you want to perform well, I'd say don't be afraid to be as personal as you can be. And just a little trick I do on the side, separate from my blog, I do some work in coordinating campaigns between bloggers and brands. And if someone's active on Twitter, tag them there. Send them a direct message on Facebook. Don't spam them. Please don't spam them. But sometimes folks won't answer email, but they're much more responsive on their social media. So there are ways to have a conversation that's not just a form letter, and really with the mindset that I want to build a relationship, right? I'm not trying to push out information. It's the keynote from yesterday morning, right? Networking isn't about you. It's about what can I do for the people around me, and get awkward and go make that happen, and good things will come to you as a result of that. So doing that and investing some of the time in that so you can preserve the work you've already done and trying to call this down into something manageable. Without it, it'll be unruly in no time again.
Andrew, have you ever had a situation where you had a big change in one of the programs you ran, and any words of wisdom?
Well, I mean, she already said it was in-house, so I assume that all these emails are loaded into Aweber or Silverpop or whatever.
Yeah, we have an email provider we use.
Yeah, I mean, my main advice if it was a network program is don't send the emails about the changes through the network interface because those just immediately go into the 1,000 other spam. I mean, do you know already who's going to be productive? I mean, my main thing is that I always just focus on the 100 people that I think are actually going to make me money, and then I'll go to the more high touch sort of elements that Carrie was talking about, where I might actually track them down and bring up like TweetDeck and stalk them on LinkedIn and things like that.
I did not say stock.
And if you have their phone number, I mean, depending on your vertical, I mean, I know it with Usenet, they were all locked in their basement staring at their computers, so kind of freaked them out. But I mean, if your vertical is more inclined to people like Carrie, who would probably pick up the phone.
Don't call me. Tweet me. Do not call me. I will not answer your call.
Yeah, that's always been my
Make
impression.
me mad. I'm like, I do make a living online. It's called online. Have you heard of the internet?
So to follow up on that, that's a good point. I would say capitalize on the relationships with affiliates who actually get back to you.
Yeah.
You know, those
Yeah.
responsive ones are definitely first and foremost, right? You know that they're willing to put in their end on the relationship. This is just an idea that I had. There's no studies that I've conducted to back it up, but I would say that you mentioned something. We have a lot of money to give you, right? You can make a lot of money with us, but I would say that that's the mantra that every merchant program has out there, right? As an affiliate, I'm not going to join your program because you're going to give me money, but all the other ones don't, right? So I would say if there's a way to make it a little bit more personal, actually show that there's, a responsive face behind it, that's the best way to do it. And my recommendation might be, as goofy as this sounds, put a picture of your management team in the email.
Yes.
Right? Like, because everybody, if you're contacting through email, it's so much better to put a face to an email address, right? And I mean, that's why when you go to, even the biggest, sites out there, the products, software as a service, whatever it is, the testimonials, the people who know what they're doing have a picture of the person that has the testimonial there. It adds this human element. And I think that if you can try to reach out through communication and just include a picture, be like, hey, meet the new management team, right? Here we are. And show that there's actually a person and not just an email address or not just a phone number. I think that that's a good way of at least starting to establish a relationship and saying, like, we're real people too, let us know. And I mean, of course, that's not going to get every single affiliate to get back to you, not at all. You're still going to have to work really hard and, like, Andrew was saying, optimize those relationships with those who have been responsive to you. But I think that it's a really good way of almost rebranding it as, kind of adding that human element that the program may have been lacking before.
And in that vein, I'll say write in a human tone. You don't have to write form letter style. I often think that when I get emails from people, like, you actually could write this like you were talking, like you would write an email to your coworker, and it doesn't have to be, thus and so kind of structured. It lends to personality. And I can think of several brands that you've probably never heard of that do very well on my site and in other, any sort of in blogging spaces, say, because the affiliate manager is very personable, has introduced a brand and made that human connection, because I'm much more willing to do something for someone I know and care about, even if, you know what I mean, I care this much, than I am to just some sort of faceless email.
It's a great question, though. Thank you.
Thank you. We're bringing the top guys to the Caribbean in a few months, so if they don't answer those emails, there's a problem. I had one more question if no one else has.
Sure, I think you're good.
We were discussing attribution. We've always had a first click format where first click gets a sale, the introducer, because we are a new customer focused program. Do you feel that there is a strong standing for us to change that model to multi-attribution?
Yes, yes.
Undoubtedly.
Last Click Wins has been around since the inception of the affiliate industry, right? 20 plus years, right? First Click's great, but that totally invalidates, in my mind, not only all other referrals from affiliates, but also other marketing channels, right? Like if First Click's the only thing you value, then why would you ever try to do anything, that follows up with an affiliate or with a potential customer? And I think that the tools are there to make a program extraordinarily dynamic now. And that having all commission or all payouts or all activity based on one click and kind of, not calling yours arbitrary, but almost some arbitrary assumption where it's like, okay, only first click or last click wins and this, it may have been a good idea at the time, but the technology is so much more advanced and you have so much more insight into everything happening. I would say if you have the ability to transition into anybody, I'm not going to self-promote, AvantLink or whatever. I mean, like you said, Impact Radius is making a play for this, and this is better for the industry as a whole because, ShareSale has their leapfrog. Although I'm not sure if that actually takes in outside considerations outside of the network, but I think that this whole shift as an industry to provide these better programs based on data is really good for not only your program, for the affiliates, for the affiliate managers making the call, but it just values the channel as a more data-driven channel, right?
Do you have any data to know how many affiliates are missing out because they aren't the first click, but they come in later?
We have a homegrown platform. We built it ourselves, so we can know anything.
Okay.
At any point. We just have
Then
to
I would
search
say
it.
yes, make that shift for sure.
I was at a company that was very first click intensive, and it created a very funny phone conversation where we were talking to a retargeting company, Adderall or Criteo, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we only look at first touch data, so you get nothing."
That's funny. That's funny.
So our e-commerce side deals with retargeter. We've been more disjointed.
There's always
But that's
overlap.
awesome.
There will always be overlap. So
Yes,
Thank you so much for your questions.
yeah, that was a great question.
I think we're to the end of our time, so I just want to thank the panel for your contribution today, and thank the audience for sticking around and listening to the content. And we'll be happy to wait here afterwards and chat with anybody that wants to talk further. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.